Welcome to today. We're going to talk with Josh Wilson about the DMC 673 Campaign Metrics and Assessment course. Looking forward to hearing your perspective, Josh, on the course and your experience teaching it. So to sort of set the stage and get us started, could you just take a few minutes to talk about your professional experience?
Yeah, well, my name is Josh Wilson. I teach DMC 673 at West Virginia University, which is Campaign Metrics and Assessment. Currently, I run the marketing department for a regional financial institution. We are the largest in the state of Montana, but I have experience working with financial institutions across Southern California and doing a lot of large, significant campaigns, which is a really exciting part about my job. We've been recognized nationally with our industries, the credit union industry's highest marketing awards, and also from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Their Emmy Awards have also recognized us for our television production too. So I'm really passionate about data and marketing and strategies, but also really connecting that right marketing creative story to tell a positive impression of the brand and to connect that with the right audience.
Great. So I know you've had an award-winning career. What recognition so far, at least, has meant the most to you?
Well, it's pretty exciting. So my first year running the marketing department at the credit union in Montana, we launched this really fun campaign where, we try to identify the right audiences. We use a lot of data and audience segmentation in order to find that, and we combine it with a really interesting creative. And there's two main industry award shows for the credit unions, which is Credit Union National Association and the Marketing Association of Credit Unions. Fun acronyms is CUNA and MAC. But that same year, we won the Best of Show award for both of those industry awards for two separate campaigns, which I don't believe has happened in the credit industry before. So it's pretty exciting to kind of run your own department, and then the first year you get those awards. And it's been a lot of kudos and credit for our team here, and excitement as well to help us keep going.
That's great. So what excites you about campaign metrics and assessment? What about it really appeals to you?
I think it's the most exciting part. I mean, people can develop creatives. There's those that have the art side, but you get to know if it actually works. And the best part, I guess, for me is to say, if you're trusting us with, potentially a multi-million-dollar campaign or even a smaller campaign, you can show the results that work. It doesn't matter if you're on the agency side or the client side, that trust is important. It builds that confidence to say, we know definitively that we produce these results. And this is how we're able to attribute those campaigns to those results and track back those metrics and develop a campaign also that targets specific people and whether or not we reach those people and even surprising conclusions that happen. The best part about, I think, this position is that, every opportunity, every campaign is a way to test those creatives, get those in the market and see how they perform. You have this brilliant idea on paper, you're talking with your team, you're saying this is going to be amazing. Well, how do you know it works or not? And that's the fun, exciting part about campaign, metrics, testing out key performance indicators, and really getting into the heart of saying, yeah, this is great, this is a home run, or this is areas where we can improve.
Great. So you taught your first section of DMC 673 Campaign Metrics and Assessment in fall of 2020. What so far do you enjoy most about teaching this class?
So there's a really exciting part where you collaborate with your fellow students. And as a fellow graduate of the data marketing program at West Virginia, I know that some of those connections I've made, have lasted well beyond myself graduating, even a professional career. You have a network of people that you can connect with and you can ask advice for. And it ranges all across the spectrum, from those who recently graduated from undergraduate and who've had a lot of success to those who are seasoned professionals who may not have had their graduate program. But because you can connect with those fellow students in your discussion boards, there's a great diversity of thought, there's a great diversity of experience and industries where you want to connect with these people. You want to hear their stories, you want to engage with them and have those great conversations. And what I've always prided myself, at least for the financial services, is that when I look at inspiration for campaigns, I'm not looking at major banks and major credit unions or other financial services. I'm looking across the industries, across marketing, and I want to get that diversified thoughts and opinions when I craft my campaigns for our brand. And when you're exposed to those people, exposed to your fellow students who have that diverse background across the country, even across the world, that you really get an idea of saying, okay, this is a good idea, this works, and you want that collaborative nature. So I think that's probably a great success of being part of it, is just fostering that level of discussion, promoting those conversations with your fellow students, and really seeing where it goes and getting that excitement with it.
Great. So what are the top three things or three takeaways that students will get in DMC 673, especially related to how they can apply it to their career?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's the approach, right? You have this entity, this campaign, but along with that, oftentimes the reporting aspect or the planning aspect comes secondary. We've already launched it, we've already had this out, but how are you truly measuring success? That needs to be a fundamental conversation that happens at the beginning of campaign planning, even in the creative stage, because it also informs how you're going to measure it along the way and track that success. So I think having that approach and nailing, getting it down to a point where you can make it a part and routine is a core fundamental that we tackle on there. Additionally, we go into the meat and potatoes of it. What are really key performance indicators or KPIs that you've heard? What are some of those ones that are going to be able to withstand reporting to executives, to senior management, to other cross-functional departments? Marketing doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there's always this idea that everybody knows what marketing is because they're exposed to it at all times. So you are going to be the expert in the room as the marketer, and the ability to effectively communicate that to other stakeholders across the organization. So that communication and knowing what those metrics are key. But that's not to really say that it's all about math and statistics. As much as I personally love it, it's not everybody's forte. So you really have to say that there's good, easy calculations to do, and there's ways to find those calculations. And there's also systems and tools and different types of programs in order to allow you to make those easier. And we are going to cover those as well, to say, what are some areas where you can go out and grab data, grab different metrics, and help supplement and provide context to your analysis that you want to bring.
Great. So what kind of assignments do students complete in 673 campaign metrics and assessment? Are there, just talk a little bit about the types of assignments and assessments that you perform.
Right. So we look a lot at saying, where's data sources that we can receive outside of our field? One of the things I like to hit on very first part of the course is to say you need to define where you live within that marketing space. You need to find that domain. How do you know that you're truly successful with your campaign if everybody's also achieving the same results? So we try to first to say, where do we stand? Where do we want to define growth? Is your organization, your brand's growth to grow sales 10%? You first off need to start on where sales are at and how to measure that. There's some fundamentals in there that definitely can't be missed. But if your brand's position is to grow market share, i.e., how much of the overall sales of whatever item that you're selling, you need to be able to quantify what that market share really means and know if you're hitting that. So first we try to start off in the day defining that market share, and then assignments build from that. We want to go first with communication elements, different type of quantitative, qualitative, i.e., something you can measure, but also something that you hear and reflect. What type of data that you can come in, and it doesn't matter if you're running a traditional marketing campaign for retail product, or if you're applying this to a communication strategy campaign as a marketer. You still need to be able to measure effectively what your reach is within that audience, and we try to dive into those details. So specific assignments would be looking at different campaigns that have either been ran before and trying to say, what lift has this brought? How can you quantify what a Super Bowl campaign brings to a brand? Can you find data to support that brand you really realize investment over millions of dollars for Super Bowl ads? Those are some things that are interesting and exciting assignments, especially when you have the leeway to choose a lot of different industries and report on that.
So thinking about that and your experience with students to date, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of the course? And let me refine the question a little bit. Is there a topic in particular that your past students have found challenging or perhaps especially rewarding?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably kind of phrase it this way. One of the most challenging, I think, rewarding aspects is taking the next step. There's level of kind of topical level of assignment or assessment that you make into a campaign. Hey, this campaign, had a click-through rate of 5%. That's a really good job. Well, can he put that in context? Dive a little deeper. What is the reason that it has that? And what I'm trying to challenge my students, because they come from a diverse level of backgrounds and experience, is to say first get the fundamentals, report on that, but then take the next step, especially if you're ready. So there are some students that come in and already know what some of these KPIs are. That's phenomenal. I want to challenge them to say, take the next step in your assessment through your assignments and say, why do you think those results happen? Make an inference, make a guess, and say, hey, they had a really great, collaborative partnership on TikTok, and we saw that through an audience demographic of 18 and 25-year-olds, there was a significant increase in that. Well, it probably is because this TikTok campaign and it had a phenomenal result. You want to make that extra leap and take that guess. In marketing, you're never going to be penalized for making an assumption or a guess, especially if it's supported by data. And that's the heart of what we're trying to do, is say, we think it's because of this. This is the data that supports it. And we make that inference or that guess based on that data. What doesn't kind of go well for that executive, that level reporting, that graduate level, which I think is the same thing as running a marketing department, is just to show the numbers out there and let somebody else make that guess. If you're reporting to your CEO, or if you're reporting to a client who's investing, hundreds of thousands of dollars, not $1 million into your campaign, they want to know the reason why behind it, and they want you to make that answer and that assessment. My job is to help teach you to say, these are the areas of the data that support this, and this is what I think is the reason behind it. And that's the heart of me is campaign reporting, campaign assessment, is knowing that reason why behind it.
So when students are planning for upcoming courses, they often ask about workload intensity, and this is a means for them to better prepare and balance their graduate studies with all of life's other responsibilities. So on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the least intensive and 5 being the most intense, how would you rate DMC 673 campaign metrics and assessments? And then what made you give it that assessment rating?
Sure. So I think part of what makes it really difficult is the experience you coming in with it. If you have a fundamental knowledge of some of the course like metrics and KPIs, or a background in knowing what a click-through rate is or an impression is, then it's going to be a 3 for you, because some of those core pieces are going to be covered in the first part. But if you're coming in fresh and you don't have any idea what it is, which is great, and I think you can, it's going to be a little more reading and a little more understanding of this, of saying, knowing what impressions are, knowing what a click is, knowing what some of those basic digital marketing metrics are. And once you get a handle on what those are, the calculations are not very difficult, and it becomes just finding information and reporting on it. So there's definitely a challenge within, say, developing the time, but the unique nature of this program through West Virginia allows it to do it at your own pace. I know personally for me, when I did the program, I did it on lunch breaks. I did it while I having a brand newborn baby, and I had helping a baby in one hand and reading on the other until late into the night. So you can balance this, but it's definitely a challenge, but it's a rewarding challenge, because you're going to walk away with that knowledge, even if it is a little more difficult for the 8 weeks of the course.
What are the most important things that you think a student needs to do to be successful in the DMC 673 campaign metrics and assessment course?
I think the part is kind of challenging yourself, to say, this may be outside my comfort zone. If you're coming through on marketing and you say, I have a really creative background and I want to focus on that creatives, that's excellent. I mean, there's a strong component of it too, but those marketing fundamentals of reporting on a campaign are essential for anybody, especially as you want to go into the agency or even on the client side and eventually lead a department. You need to have that background, those fundamentals. So I think in terms of preparing yourself for it, it's getting exposed to different areas where, especially on digital side, if you have somebody that is working on Google Analytics or has the website metrics, take a peek at it, get an idea of what that data looks like, what those terms look like. If there's some introductory Google courses, or even just other marketing metrics that you've had, which are your advertising, get a handle on what that really means, and ask those questions. That's going to be probably the best challenge you have, is really doing that. Also, the big thing too is that having the faith in your instructor to ask those questions. You're never the bother of a WVU instructor by asking more questions and trying to get more knowledge of it. So if you're not sure about something, you're not alone in this journey. You have a partner, you have your instructors. Ask us questions. Our email numbers are out there, our phone numbers are there. We try to respond as much as we can. I know me personally, I try to get back within the same day, if not the next day, even on the weekends, just because I know that when you have that question, you feel stuck, you kind of want the answer right away. So we're here to help you support that. And that's a good challenge, is to ask those questions.
That's a perfect segue into my next set of questions. And really, it's about you and how you how you approach the classroom. So what do you think is your personal teaching style, and how do you meaningfully engage with students in your courses?
So personal teaching style, that's kind of a tough one, right? But I would say it's curiosity. It's pretty evident too when you do the program and you've done it and you've been experienced, to say, hey, this student is coming from a different place than another student. But part of this, you want to make sure that the experience is rewarding and enriching. So I try to give feedback, especially within the discussions and within the assignments, that try to provoke and ask those questions. If you are nailing it, you feel really confident on there, then the question might go into a completely different different realm than what the material may be. Maybe a step above that. But if you're also an area where you're coming in and you may not have any experience, whether it be marketing or at all, I want to ask those questions to kind of help provoke that and have a natural curiosity. But that has to be reciprocal, right? You want to be able to engage, and you want to feel that you have that from the students, to say there's some excitement on there, and to find things that are exciting you. So if there's a particular industry that you're passionate about, I think explore that. That's going to allow you to feel more comfortable talking about some of these marketing metrics and marketing campaigns and making those assessments.
What do you think defines you as an instructor?
It's interesting too, because I take that probably same question in terms of what we do for our industry. Is that I've lived in a big city in the metropolitan area, and now I'm more of a rural community within the same industry, but I've also had experience within politics, owning my own business, and trying to be really diverse and engaged with how I challenge myself. So defining myself as an instructor, I would say that I can empathize a lot with situations of a lot of students and where people come from. Your experience as a marketer may be an agency in a major metropolitan city working with very high-end clients. That experience obviously is extremely rewarding and extremely prideful for what you can accomplish. But if you are a marketer who may be more rural area, or who's working with a smaller brand, those challenges that you face are probably even exponentially greater, but they're no less insignificant. No less significant, I should probably say. So if you have a different challenge, different set, it's not one way to market. And that's kind of where I would say, as an instructor, there's not one right way to do this and one wrong way. It has to be really dependent on the situation and the brand that you work with, or the factors that are in your own marketplace that affect this. So as my own self as an instructor, and just even career-wise, you have to look at the context and where somebody's coming from, the factors that play for them, and really make sure that what they're delivering, what they're putting out, is indicative and reflective of their own personal experiences as a marketer.
Tremendously insightful, and I think that's a really good way to approach, especially graduate level instruction or graduate level education, because it's so specific to the individual, and there's so many different types of students in our programs. So just a sort of a overall last question: what has been your favorite aspect of teaching in WVU's online marketing communications graduate programs, at least so far?
Honestly, it's really hearing from the students. I had a great conversation last semester with a student from Chicago, and she was at working in a kind of logistics company, wanted to break into marketing, and she had her own goals, but she also had a lot of ambition and drive. And we talked about it. We had a great conversation on a Saturday morning, and honestly, I had my young child in one hand and the other, but we had that great conversation to say, what truly are your goals beyond the course materials? beyond what you would, would say, trying to find some of these metrics and say, what are you trying to really accomplish? And we talked about it, and I said, my goal for you is to go face a CEO, go face a client and say, you can trust me with multiple millions of dollars in a marketing campaign because I know how to get results and I can prove it. And she just, absolutely, that's what I want. I said, here's the skills in order to do that. Here's the confidence. And having that level of conversation with her and with, with other students as well, to say, truly, what are you trying to get from this program? And this is how it fits in, has been ultimately rewarding. And that's been kind of an exciting part for me to say, there's another side of marketing. There's a way to do this in a digital and a data-driven manner that can attribute the results. And this is how you can go from guessing if your TV ad works to really truly knowing if your marketing is successful. And having the engagement with the students to really share that vision and that passion, it's been exciting. It truly has been rewarding as well.
Thank you. So I'm hesitant to ask anything else because that was a great way to end. But is there anything that I didn't ask that you thought I would, or anything else about the DMC 673 campaign metrics and assessment course that you'd like to just share with students?
I think a lot of it comes down to, there's an intimidation factor, right? Where you might look at this and crack open the first textbook and there is some, algebraic questions, statistic questions in there. And you say, oh my gosh, what do I get myself into? This is dense. By no means are reading the textbook cover to cover, but it's something where, I've referred back to any of the textbooks within the program and said, hey, these are good reference points. These are good things. If you have the pleasure experience of reporting to your CFO and you need to defend a marketing budget to somebody who's purely finance based, you're going to want to have that knowledge in your hip pocket to say, I know how to hang with this. I know how to report on these numbers and these figures. So if you're looking at this and you're seeing the first kind of opening salvo of equations on there, it gets better, it gets easier, especially for DMC 673. But it also kind of says, hey, have some fun with this. It's easy to kind of get repulsed and say, no, I'm a marketer. I don't want to do any of this stuff. But this is a part of it. It's science as much as art. And both of those have a good nexus together to say, we want to be able to know what we do works. And that doesn't matter if you're in a purely communications element of marketing and PR, or if you're a purely creative side, or if you are the most high-tech marketer working in data segmentation and advanced algorithms in order to directly target people with customized messages. All of these are broadly applied and provide that bench strength. And it's something that is exciting, especially as you get into it and you kind of find that comfort and that stride. And once you're off, you're off. You won't have you'll have that confidence in your belt to tackle other harder items.
Well, Josh, thank you very much for providing some insight on the DMC 673 course, and I appreciate everything that you shared.
Thanks, Chad.